Originally, the thought process was to have this be a quick video. For some reason, looking at this pile I got, I don't think it's going to be all that short. Let's take a look at some champions versus champions, titles versus titles. We're going to go all the way back early from 1955. Well, with this issue anyway, here's a 1955 issue. It's my oldest issue that I got. It comes from Japan. Rikidozan fighting for the title against King Kong Cieza, and this is for the All Japan JWA, Japan Wrestling Association, both titles. And Rikidozan would become the first champion. This is the magazine covering that match when he defeated King Kong in 1955. This is November issue of Baseball Magazine, which put out a wrestling magazine, which what we know as Pro Wrestling Weekly today. So it's just establishing Rikidozan and his title, where it came from. 2 years later, he would be taking on Lou Thesz for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. He is defending his title of the All Asian World title and the JWA title versus the NWA, which would become the NWA International World title. At this point in 57, Thesz had already lost the title to Dick Hutton, and that's kind of a secret loss in Japan. They didn't know about that loss, and he went there as the champion, still with the championship belt. Here is I don't even want to show this because it's old and I don't want to screw it up. Here is a program to that match, October 1957. Thesz, and I'm just going to turn it softly because it is a brittle program, very rare program, showing the two world champions, Lou Thesz defending the title against Rikidozan for the world championship, and Rikidozan would defeat Lou Thesz in this match. Here's the magazine to it, discussing the build up to it, very much so like the program. And here is the magazine showing the title win, when he would beat Thesz for the title. And this would be what's still considered defended today in All Japan, which is part of now the Triple Crown. And this is 1957 November's issue of Pro Wrestling Monthly Baseball Magazine's special All Wrestling issue. So there are a couple of really old ones going back, dating the title versus titles. Again, here is the program. Here is the magazine of that historical match. And for the first time, the NWA title being defended, quote unquote, is lost. But like I said, Dick Hutton in America was defending the title, the NWA title here. Which brings us up now a couple years. That it's very rare to see a title versus title. You'd see it, but not talked about much. We're going by the magazine covers and what's showcasing the matches. So there was some champions versus champions here and there. Nothing was ever super popular, super big until what became known as the Super Bowl of wrestling, and that would be Harley Race world champion defending the title against superstar Billy Graham, WWF champion. And this is the first issue discussing the title versus title match, NWA versus WWF, December of 1977, Wrestling Superstars. And this would be on several different magazines. And again, here on Sports Review, May of 1978, it's got a great shot of Superstar and Harley together with their championship belts. Two great magazines from that time period discussing the biggest match of our time, as it would be known in the magazines later on, most important match of our time. And another issue of Sports Review, you've seen predominantly sports reviews covering the title versus title match with Superstar and Harley. Fall 78. This is an annual. And good bloody shot of Superstar and Harley. Now, for the people who haven't seen the matches, we only had the magazine coverage. We're going to go inside a couple of these issues today that we're showing the champions versus champions. Japanese magazines are backwards, so I got to use my wrong hand turning the pages, so bear with me if I get these shots. Japanese issue. This is put out by Gong. It's a USA Championship Wrestling issue. It's a bonus issue for, I believe, either October or November of 78. I'm sorry, March or April of 78. I don't remember which. It doesn't say on the front cover here. Difficult issue to find, but it's got a lot of great color shots inside here of the match that I'm going to show you. I show some in a different video, but here's a poster, if I can fit that in there. Great shot, Mil Mascaras coming off the top against Superstar at the Garden. But on to the title versus title match. And I'm just going to hold these pictures as still as I can for you. Take a look at some great shots that were taken in full color by our friends in Japan. Showing the Japanese issues because they're the only ones that would print this in color. It's a shot of the ball field in Miami. It was a rainy night. Both men locking up. Terrific shots by the Japanese magazines. You pay a lot for it, but you get what you pay for. I mean, you can see it's thick, slick, glossy paper in their magazines. It wasn't the cheap newspaper print. Like I said before, Sports Illustrated quality, and we're going to go through a few Japanese issues as we cover these title versus title or champion versus champion videos, video that I'm doing for you guys today. I'm going to get into some bloody shots here too as the match goes on. Great centerfold shot here. Superstar dropping Harley on his back onto the knee. A great looking picture. Comes up 2 pages. Great bloody shot. Very close to this cover here on Inside Wrestling. Very close to it. But a great bloody shot there. Look at that. These two were set to meet again shortly after for a rematch that would never take place in St. Louis. Another great shot. This time Superstar head over heels. Good bloody shot. And another one that's reminiscent of the cover of our annual we have here with the clutch, camel clutch. They're so thick I can't even get them open. Here's a great looking shot of Superstar at the end of the match, which would end in some kind of a draw. I can't remember what. Title, of course, didn't change hands. Most of the time they didn't. And what a shot of Superstar holding up that belt. Of all nights, I decided to do a video. I've been absent for a while. It's Halloween night, and the neighborhood's going crazy. So if you hear background noise and doorbells and knocks, that's what's going on. I forget all this shit because my kids are all grown and gone, so I'm kind of oblivious to the days and times and shit. Good shot of Harley here with the belt at the end of the match, picking up the belt. Dick the Bruiser here also defending the title against the Sheik. Sheik's defending his title against Dick the Bruiser in a cage. These are, for some reason, it's a crime. It's in black and white. I do have these photos in another magazine, but wow, why did they do that? should have been in color because the entire magazine basically is in color. But anyway, so there was title versus title, Superstar versus Harley Race, and we said that it was going to be a rematch. The match was already signed, but one problem stood in the way. Problem being Bob Backlund defeated Superstar for the title. So, Superstar going down, cannot defend. Backlund now is obligated to defend the title against Harley Race in St. Louis, and this would be Backlund's very first title defense. And it just so happens to be one of the biggest of them all. Title versus title against Harley Race in his old territory where he just left Missouri as he was the Missouri champion. He defeated Harley Race for the Missouri title just a year and a half prior to going to the WWF. Now champion versus champion. It was somewhat bigger news in St. Louis than it was in New York. Not really any mention of it, hardly at all. And just one cover for it on our issues that are discussing that matchup. No color shots, nothing from it from the Japanese issues. Backlund, moving on into 79, would do a title versus title against Antonio Inoki for the NWF, National Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion, which was the World Championship defended in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the belts are very similar, made pretty close to their original design for this. This was before the WWF had the Winged Eagle. They made a comparison to the NWF as Pedro's old red belt that he had. He was the only one to hold the Winged Eagle down tipped, and you can see the Winged Eagles up in this issue here. It's different. So they had that design before the WWF had their design. So Backlund would defend the title, and he would lose the World Wrestling Federation Championship to Antonio Inoki, and Inoki is on the cover of this program as the World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion. The only cover he appears on in Japan. He's in several magazines, several programs in Japan. Not much coverage. I think I go over it in a 1980 issue of Wrestling Review for you guys. In several other videos, we discussed this title change a lot, so we're just going to kind of breeze through it. But Backlund did drop the title to Inoki, whether it is recognized by McMahon or not, it really doesn't matter. The title was changed hands, and Inoki was the champion. Backlund, busy champion. He would go on next to face AWA champion Nick Bockwinkel. Backlund and Bockwinkel, WWF versus AWA, title versus title, and not a lot of mention for this at all. It would be 2 years later on a Best of the Wrestler that the magazine would showcase a cover for it, and here's the two going at it. The Japanese have a one issue in 79 with those two standing together with the belts, but it really wasn't much to dig out or show. Kind of a silent, kind of off the beaten track, not much known about it, and it's a shame because these matches did happen, and if, doing something like that, well, always drew a lot of interest with people, and I, for one, always love seeing a champion versus champion. But of course, it would all end in some sort of a draw. In 1979, after just losing the United States Championship, Ric Flair would come to the WWF and challenge Bob Backlund for the heavyweight championship. And here is a shot of their first meeting while Backlund is the WWF champion. This issue is discussing Dusty Rhodes' win over Harley Race and then losing it right back to him just a couple of short days later. But interesting enough, I believe this match was in Canada, Toronto, I believe. And here's just some shots of Backlund and a young Flair in 79, who I just believe he just lost the U.S. title to Ricky Steamboat at this point. But a couple of picks that you don't see very often, and I thought I would show that because these two have a match later on in 1982. We'll get to that in just a few moments. Backlund will go back at it again with Harley Race in 1980 at Madison Square Garden. I'll never forget Harley coming on WWF TV in 1980, be like, holy shit, it's the world champion on our television show? What's going on? It was just the coolest thing. I'd never seen it happen. It's never happened again. See the NWA champion appear on WWF TV, it was just a shock when you're 11 years old seeing that. And couldn't wait for the match. And it was, I think Harley wrestled one TV taping, which stretched out to be maybe 2 weeks, and 1 week for an interview. Here is another. This is just a very large newspaper type magazine. It's not a newspaper. It's big, thick, but it's a little bit thinner. Not as big as the one with Superstar and Harley, but nonetheless, it's still a huge magazine. This one is another issue, a special from Pro Wrestling Monthly. Talking about most of the MSG matches and the MSG tournaments that New Japan holds, but covering the match versus Harley versus Backlund for the title. There's a couple magazines covering it. Get this out of the way. Cover of Pro Wrestling Monthly, and got a great shot of Backlund, Harley on the ground, on the mat there in the garden. And we'll go inside this one and take a look at it. Try to turn the pages with my other hand. Give me a sec here. This is Gong's issue. The date is on the side, of course, and I can't see. It is December's issue of 1980. And first you have to get through their posters. Great shot outside of Madison Square Garden. Just look at that period piece with the old cars. Great looking shot of MSG in 1980. Still has, of course, that filthy Times Square look to the city. Just turn the camera the opposite direction and you'll see. With some great shots of champion versus champion here. Both men with the belts for the ring announcement. This is not Harley's first time in the Garden. He would take on Tony Gurria. He would defend the NWA World title against Dusty Rhodes at the Garden. He was there a few times. Certainly no stranger to the WWF crowd. It's another great shot. Harley getting back suplexed. And of course, that ticker tape sign, notorious for the Garden back then. Easily tell it's the Garden when you see that scoreboard up there. It's just so iconic and just brings back memories just looking at that. Some fantastic photos here. This match was covered a little bit more in our American issues, but I figure I would just show the Japanese issues instead because they would show full color and much better photos for sure. And just couldn't beat what they gave you, what they gave their fans rather for their buck. Great looking photos here of that match. Bloody Bob over the left eye rather. Harley was also bloodied in that match. The pictures just continue on, as you can see. I mean, they really give you a bunch of photos in these Jap issues. This is why, I searched these out and almost complete. I mean, I got 68, 69, 70, 71, 72 complete of Gong and Gong Invitation to the Ring. And moving along, they're hard to find. They're very expensive. And if you can find certain issues, especially from the 60s and early 70s, they're very expensive. Just another shot here of Terry Funk. But Harley Race defending the title against Bob Backlund, defending his title. And of course, it goes to no title change. Next title versus title would be Backlund taking on Ric Flair, a match that a lot of people wanted to see and was never recorded for some ridiculous reason. I believe it took place in the Omni, and every magazine under the sun covered it. Trying to get that glare out of there. It's kind of hard to get it out of. This is The Wrestler, November of 1982, and it's got a great shot of the two on the cover. Wrestling's Main Event also put that on their cover. It was a hot-selling magazine, hot-selling ticket, you would think. I thought it would be a lot bigger than it was. And I just cannot believe that it was not recorded. What a shame. But I'm going to take you inside and show you some color photos to that match, because it'll be the closest you can get to seeing them live, I guess, right? So Wrestling Scene now in their 1982 issue in December. Great looking shot of Flair getting thrown off the top. And Gong would also have a great look of Georgia TV wrestling, and there's an interview being done by Gordon Solie, first announcer to make a cover of a wrestling magazine. Gordon Solie, first and only, unless one has come on after the 2000s that I don't know about, and I don't consider McMahon that. Gordon Solie, strictly an announcer. McMahon was a little bit more. But great looking cover of both champions being interviewed on TV, hyping up the match before the match at the Omni, I do believe. And let's just go inside. If you find this issue, it's rather expensive. One of the main reasons is because of this card. It's a very thick card stock. These card stocks are expensive. This is with Terry Funk, and this is number 2. And like I said, it's thick. These are usually ripped out, and that's what costs you the money for these issues. Another great looking shot of both men with their suit, and Gordon Solie interviewing both champions. World champion Ric Flair, company champion Bob Backlund. You say that because there's only one world heavyweight champion, and that was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. The WWF was still a member of the NWA, therefore could not use the name World title in their description. So they were the World Wrestling Federation champion versus the World Champion Harley Race or Ric Flair. Another great pinup, 2 pinup photos that can be pulled out of both champions. Just before the match, referee holding up both belts. Another fantastic shot. Man, it sucks there's no video of this. July 4th, this says July 4th, 1982 would be the match. I guess I didn't know that, actually. It's the first I'm noticing that. Match continues on, very close to our Wrestling Scene cover here. Backlund and Flair. I believe this was a dry match, meaning no blood. I don't think either guy bled, which is rare for both those guys, especially Flair, because he was a juicer for sure. And typical Japanese fashion, the photos just keep coming. We would probably get, a page and a half, sometimes 2.5 pages if you're lucky. I mean, the Japanese give you between 6 to 8 color photo shots of your favorite matches. I mean, it's just incredible. Great looking photos. I can zoom in a little bit closer. And sadly, this is going to be as close as seeing the match as we're all going to be able to see, because the match was not recorded. Just trying to see what this is. Harley Race and Dusty teaming up, I guess, to take on the Funks. That must have been a wild match. So title versus title. Flair versus Nature Boy, Ric Flair. And again, no title change. Guessing it's your typical cliche draw. Not much coverage anywhere, even in the Japanese sections, magazines for that matter. Jumbo Tsuruta defending the NWA International Heavyweight Championship, which is this belt. Well, not this belt that he won. Ricky Dozan won. That belt is still in circulation. In 1984, Jumbo Tsuruta is the champion. That's just known as the International World Champion. Would defend against Nick Bockwinkel for the AWA World Heavyweight Champion. AWA can use the world title name because they're not affiliated with the NWA. It's just simple as that. And Jumbo Tsuruta would win the title and hold both titles, merging them both together. Not really merging them together, being the double champion for a short time until Rick Martel came by and would take it from Jumbo. Of course, Rick Martel, not exactly the kind of world champion I would think would be a number one pick to carry a company, but what am I to say, right? I guess, he was there, he did it for a little while, it didn't move the AWA one way or the other. Let's see, so you bypassed Hulk Hogan and you made Rick Martel your world champion. Anyway, takes on Ric Flair, AWA world champion, takes on NWA world champion, and that match was billed very big in Japan. Many magazines covered that match, and big talk. These were all free on TV, by the way. These weren't stuff like you had to go to a big place to see it. This was all on television. Everything from Japan is all on television. So all their fans got that. Wasn't like it was pay-per-view only, or you have to go here or go there. It was, you stayed home and you watched it, or you went to the arena. Gong's issue covering the title versus title. Good-looking shot of Flair getting thrown by Rick Martel. And one other one now. It's pretty cool. They showed the old school TV as the picture, and there's the match inside of Pro Wrestling Weekly. And if you'll notice, I said that before, it's Baseball Magazine. They still call it sometimes Baseball Magazine. Usually it's written in Japanese, though, but sometimes they did throw that on there in English. Let's take a look. There's not many pages. There was more magazine covers than there was pages. They just showed the magazine the best. It was a really bloody Flair in this match, and both champions would walk out of the ring as their champion. Neither one would lose, in other words. I believe there's only just a couple more pictures. There's not much left. Maybe there's a few more. Couple shots. This probably on YouTube, but I know at one time it was. This is a good shot here. Both guys. I thought I had that issue with me. I guess I don't. There's another issue I thought I had with me, but I don't. And that's it. That goes into the Road Warriors now on that same night, taking on whoever, most likely Tenryu or someone. So that was 1985, and 1983, Hulk Hogan, throwing away the politics aside and different hair splitting aside, Hogan would become the first IWGP Heavyweight Tournament champion. In the tournament, instead of getting a trophy for winning, you would get a championship belt. It was a non-defended belt, therefore making Hulk Hogan the first IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Tournament champion. Whatever, he was still the first. Some people just refuse to call him the first IWGP champion. And, I mean, they have a point. All that being aside, 1983, Hogan, now the IWGP tournament used to be the MSG tournament, Madison Square Garden tournament. It was changed, and now it's the IWGP, which now is known as the G1 Climax. It's still going on today. But Hogan would be the first champion, defeating Antonio Inoki. Inoki would come back in 84, face Hogan again, and Inoki would win the championship in 84. 85 now, Hogan will be back in Japan as a special to take on Inoki for the rubber match. And it was billed as WWF versus IWGP, New Japan versus WWF, Hulk Hogan, WWF champion versus Antonio Inoki, IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Title versus title. Here are two ticket stubs. This is a ticket stub the night Inoki won the tournament, defeating Andre the Giant. And ticket stub against Hulk Hogan 2 nights later for the main event, champion versus champion, which was huge news in Japan. Not so much news here in America. I don't even think it was discussed. Every magazine covered it. IWGP tournament was huge. IWGP champion was a prestigious championship. Going by the wayside was the NWF title that Inoki had throughout the 70s, and the IWGP was soon to be the big title to come out of Japan. Big news, both McMahons were there for the event. Here's a commemorative book after the event, and it's got some pretty good photos in here. Champion versus champion. This was really built up in Japan, like I said. They went crazy for it, and great looking shot of both champions. Also, the tag team titles, the Adonis and Murdoch were going against Kimura and Fujinami for the World Tag Team Championships, which was the WWF Tag Team Championships International. So it would be the International World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championships, and Fujinami and Kimura would beat Adonis and Murdoch, who were the WWF Tag Team Champions at the time. So that was also big news. So it was a big win for Japan, big win for IWGP. We're just going to get to the back of the magazine. Inoki here defeating Andre the Giant. The rules were different in Japan. You could be counted out of the ring and the title can change. You could be disqualified, the title could change. So that's how Inoki is able to defeat Andre the Giant. He would defeat Andre the night before, winning the entire tournament by countout. And here he is shaking hands with McMahon after winning the tournament. And the next night, pages are sort of thick, he would defend Japan's honor, New Japan's honor, and defend the title, go against Hogan for the title for the WWF. Whether the title was actually on the line or not, I don't know. It doesn't really say. They didn't say. They hinted. It was for the championship, but who knows if it really was. Like I said, Vinces were there to make sure things didn't get squirrely and nothing happened that wasn't supposed to happen. And here's Hogan getting kicked in the back of the head, and soon you'll see, where's the shot? Maybe it's not here. Oh, yeah. Hogan here counted out of the ring, and Inoki winning by count out and becoming the champion, who was already the champion. But it was billed as champion versus champion, not necessarily title versus title. Nonetheless, it was, no more hotter. It was ridiculously hot in Japan, and it was huge for New Japan, and boosting the new brand of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship belt. Both magazines, meaning Gong and Pro Wrestling Monthly, which was now Pro Wrestling Weekly because it had changed to a weekly magazine, both showing the tournament, showing the win against Andre, the win against Hogan, and the champion, and Pro Wrestling Weekly just showing Inoki getting crowned the title at the end, and there it is. So there was one other worth talking about that really was never talked about much at all. Lou Thesz, who we all know who Lou Thesz was. We just looked at him, and we showed his championship belt. I just had it here a second ago. You know the one, but I can't find it without destroying something. I must have really buried it. His belt that he's on the cover with Ricky Dozan. He brought that belt back to existence to Japan to be a defended world title to be used for the UWF in Japan. The UWF or UWFI, and here's Lou Thesz. He's crowning the first champion, Akihiko Takada, after winning the title. The title, like I said, is Lou Thesz's old belt, the one that he used as world champion when he came to Japan originally. and he would defend the title against WCW heavyweight champion, or you could say world champion, Big Van Vader, for a title versus title. So the UWF versus WCW. This just goes on to say Lou bringing out his championship belt as to be honored to the champion. This is stamped, meaning this is the program of that event. This would just be a blank page, meaning that it wasn't. They would stamp the match inside the match list. Because you could buy the program aftermarket and it's worth a quarter of the price. When it's stamped, it's worth like 5 times the amount. So this is stamped. Whenever you buy a program, make sure that it's not all white. You'll see it looks like this. I know you can't read it, but versus is always in English, so that'll help you. That's where your money is. And if you wanted the cheaper one, and if you find it cheaper, that's the reason, because it's usually not stamped. I don't buy them that aren't stamped. Again, some great shots. Their program is ridiculous. This is like, 2 times the size of a magazine. It's ridiculously thick. Great shot of Lou Thesz with the belt. Great shot of Lou in the 50s, bringing the belt first to Japan in 57. And they're just discussing the history, showing the honor of that belt. And I'm going to get to, here's Takada winning the title for the first time. And now it is defending it against the WCW World Heavyweight Champion Big Van Vader, who was also a 2-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion, or maybe 3, I can't remember. So he's already well established in Japan already. And a hell of a match it was. Very, very stiff. If you've never watched UWF or UWF, it's very much like pancrase or shoot fighting. It's it's real. It hurts, but it's predetermined. It's the closest thing you'd get to being real. Guys were beaten and bloodied, and they fought their asses off for their matches and their belts. Not that the other guys didn't, but this was just a little bit more stiffer. Nobuhiko Takada would defend the title this night in the title versus title, but Vader would go on to win that title at a later date, just a year down the road. And here is a shot of Vader after winning the title, and it was presented to him by Lou Thesz. But he had already lost the title to, I believe it was Sting at that point, or maybe Flair at that point. Probably Flair, because I think it was after Starrcade. So, so there's just a look back. I didn't plan on this video to go this long. I really didn't. After I started looking at how much I had here, I couldn't believe how much I had to go through. And I was like, damn, I got a lot of shit here. This might be a longer video than I thought. So we're just looking at some champions versus champions, some titles versus titles. And hopefully I showed you some things you've never seen before. And maybe if I showed you something that'll inspire you to go out and maybe buy some of these issues to save these things from extinction. That's our whole main goal here. I appreciate the likes and the thumbs up and the comments. I really don't give a shit if you do or you don't. That's not why I'm here. I'm never going to beg you for a thumbs up. I'm never going to beg you for a subscription. I don't care if you subscribe. I'm here for collectors, and I want somebody here because they want to be here, not just because I'm trying to show a number. I'd rather have 3 people that want to be here than 300 that are just on a number, which is meaningless to me. I'd rather help the collector find that missing issue and possibly expose you to something that you haven't seen before. And that's my job for this channel. I'm just going through crap trying to find something else to show you while I'm just yapping. But all right, guys, there is the champions versus champions. It's a shot of Andre and Hogan there from the Garden, it looks like. So this is champion versus champion, and I hope you guys dig it. And we will see you on the next.